What's going on, YouTube? We are here. It is the end of the XFL regular season. Um, got a lot to get into. I will do a quick season recap, regular season recap. Go over the games, some of the playoff implications. Talk about everything that happened this weekend. We'll do a little bit of just a quick look into the future, but we'll do that probably later in the week. Do more full breakdown of the division games. And all that. As always, be sure to like, subscribe. Let me know in the comments what you thought about the season, the XFL in general. If you want to sponsor me, that work email is in there. And there's a lot of places we could start. I guess we should start with the games from this weekend first. So the biggest game, the biggest games ended up being the St. Louis Battlehawks, Orlando Guardians, and the Seattle Dragons at Vegas Vipers. And the Arlington game could have been big, and San Antonio game was big, but they lost on that missed field goal. I forget how far it was, but they lost on that missed field goal, so that made the Sunday game less interesting. The first Sunday game, excuse me. So St. Louis, I almost said they wouldn't cover a 9.5. It could have been 20, and they would have won. And the Orlando played hard. It was 25-20, I think, at the half. So they were in it, and then they weren't in it very quickly. AJ McCarron had an incredible game. 20-35, 420 yards. The week of 420, coincidence? I don't know. 6 TDs, only got sacked once. Hakeem Butler, 9 catches, 164 yards, 2 TDs. Darius Shepard had a great game. Stephen Mitchell with a couple catches. Defensively, 4 sacks, 3 picks. A really strong game from them. They needed to have, if they have any chance, they need to score a lot of points. Certainly helped them. Great way to end the season with their fans. We'll talk more about that, but great game. They did exactly they had to give this have a chance. They had to score a ton of points, and they scored a ton of points, and they didn't give up a ton. So props to them. Probably would have helped them if they could have held Orlando a little bit less than 28. I forget. We'll get into that later, but DC, San Antonio, DC rested most of their guys. Let's see. I didn't watch him a ton of this one. Not as much as you thought. I thought Tamu and King wouldn't play as much as they did, but yeah, solid game from them. Again, not I don't really take too much of this from them. They had nothing to play for. San Antonio had to have this game, and DC was still able to win. So tells you a little bit how good there's the gap there. No picks, 2 sacks, not a great game defensively. San Antonio, played hard. I kind of saw the talent gap. Jack Cohn, 34-48 for 312 yards. Not a ton of yards for 48 pass attempts. Only 23 carries, 15. They lost Ballage, and they could never run the ball again. That really hurt them, I think. I mean, not I think, I know. And the quarterback play, they didn't have a quarterback who could rise above that, unfortunately. So tough way for the San Antonio. That ended their playoff hopes, which made the Roughnecks Arlington game useless. They play each other next week, so neither team was going to show anything. Luis Perez had a very pedestrian game. Roughnecks. Cole McDonald had a little bit of a run. Caleb Ellaby even got some time. Happy for that. Jeremy Cox had a bunch of good runs. I don't think I've seen him play very much. That's the thing. Let's see their defensive stats. 2 sacks, an interception, 2 forced fumbles. Yeah, pretty good stretch for them. And the thing that's concerning, Arlington was playing pretty hard and playing a lot of their starters, and they got smacked. I know it wasn't, neither team was trying as hard as they could because they didn't want to show everything and all that. But Arlington kind of scares me going to the playoffs. But didn't matter to either team, so can't take a ton. And then the final game last night, the tiebreaker stuff was annoying. ESPN kept saying Seattle had to score 34 points. That was one way they could clinch it, but they didn't have to score 34. I don't want to get into the tiebreakers. The way I think it was Mike Mitchell, or Mark Cass. I think it was Mike Mitchell. I forget his name on Twitter. I apologize. We basically had is basically that Seattle had to score 27, had to give up less than 27 and win, and they did that. Jalen McClendon was bad. I really liked him a couple of times I saw him play. This game he did not have it. 6 to 21, 201 yards, which is kind of crazy. I mean, he got an 84-yard pass, so that'll do it. But 6 to 21, one interception, sacked twice, 19 carries, 46 yards. These teams just don't run the ball well. I don't know what it is about the XFL. Maybe a coach guest could help me understand that. I think those lines just take a long time to gel. Matthew Sexton had only 2 catches, about 119 yards. I mean, just wasn't going to get it done. No sacks. They did have 2 interceptions and a forced fumble, so give them credit for that. And Seattle had to put up some points, or wanted to put up some points. DiNucci was a little bit sloppy at the end. Just took some stupid chances. I think he was just trying to put up points. I got it. I think they just thought it'd be easier. But 26 to 41, he was really good in the beginning. And the parts of the game that matter, none of his interceptions were super consequential. 3 passing TDs, a rushing TD. We'll talk about that a little bit. Josh Gordon had a really nice game, a bunch of tough contested catches. 9 catches, that's probably his highest that I can remember. No TDs, but 9 catches, 115 yards. In my memory, that's the most yards most catches he's had in a game. Jacob Pearson, who was out for a little bit in this game, 3 catches and a touchdown. Josh Gordon did have that fumble. It was recovered. Seattle defense played pretty well. 2 sacks, forced fumble, interception. Held Jalen McClendon to 6 to 21. Before we go any further, I forget if I mentioned this last week. If I did, I apologize. If I didn't, I apologize. Unreal prayers to Chris Smith, passed away at 31. Prayers to him, his family, all his teammates. I'm sure it was emotional before the game. I'm sure that was tough for especially the defensive guys who knew him so well. But on a human note, more importantly, best wish to him, his family, his son or daughter. I think he has a son. Prayers to his whole family. And it's really a shame. But I wanted to mention that, Kate. I didn't want to gloss over that if I didn't mention last week. Anyway, Seattle got the win. So now we'll go to the standings by virtue of all these confusing tiebreakers that I don't want to explain again because I don't really understand them. Seattle holds the top spot in the division by the 5th. It came down to tiebreaker number 5 on the XFL standings page. Smarter people than me can figure it out. Seattle goes 7-3. St. Louis goes 7-3 as well. Unfortunately, great year for St. Louis. I know a bunch of St. Louis fans online I saw were saying how it's dumb that the XFL having has divisions, the 4 best teams should just make it. I largely agree, to be honest with you. I'd be saying this. I said the same thing when Seattle was going to miss it. I'd said it, and I say now it's St. Louis missing it. They should be in the playoffs. Definitely over Arlington. They're probably better than Houston even. They beat Houston. They have the same record, so kind of think they're better than Houston. It stinks. They had a really good year. Anthony Beck was awesome. AJ McCarron's awesome. Arguably the XFL MVP. Probably number 2 in my voting. Great year. Unfortunately, it doesn't work out for them. Vegas finishes 2-8. Kind of a weird year for them. An experienced head coach kind of got to them, I think. But it's a shame. I think it's stupid. I get divisions, and divisions mean something in football. I get it, but just it stinks. But that's the way it goes. I'm personally very happy for my Seattle Sea Dragons making it. So I can't say I'm complaining, but it does stink and it's stupid and they should be in the playoffs. And they're better than any team in the XFL South. As I said weeks ago, I said those 3 teams. As I said before the season, I think they're better than every team in the XFL South. Anyway, Houston finishes 7-3. They ended up being okay. They went like 5-3, or like they were like kind of a little deja wobbling a little bit, but they ended up hanging out okay. They took care of the division. They beat all the teams worse than them, and that's important, you know. They didn't get upset. All their losses were to the top that teams I just said were the top 3: St. Louis, Seattle, and DC. So to beat all teams are worse than them, that's good enough sometimes. So congrats to them. Arlington squeaks in at 4-6. Yikes. We'll talk about them. Um, San Antonio, fortunately, was 3-7. Had a good start to the year. I think they just never seen him find a great rhythm. Quarterback, they had injuries at the quarterback position. Running back, they had injuries. And then Orlando had a really great win. They played hard. Just a talent gap. I mean, everyone who knew anything about this league looked at this roster and said, "Okay, Orlando's not going to be the good team." And it's not just credit to their coaching staff. Even I think they had a really disastrous start to the year, but by the end they were playing pretty hard. They lost some big games, but they played a lot of teams pretty tough. So, it's way it falls. I think we all saw this. I was watching my prediction video. I was trying to see what I got right and what I got wrong, just about the league in general. I did say that DC would finish one in the league or in the XFL North. I don't know. I probably meant league, but at least the XFL North. I said those three teams would beat up on each other. I said any one of them could miss the playoffs, but I would pick DC to be number one. I said Seattle and St. Louis are going to be really close. I picked Seattle, but that was kind of a coin flip. I said like that could be close. Wouldn't have shocked me either, especially those teams wouldn't have shocked me. It would have shocked me if DC missed the playoffs entirely, to be honest. Look at their roster and their coaching and everything, but wouldn't have been stunned, but I wouldn't have been shocked. But Seattle and St. Louis, I knew one of them was going to miss the playoffs, and I said it was going to be really close. So I was right about that. Vegas, I didn't know. I forget if I knew who their starting quarterback was going to be. I don't know if I thought it was Brian Scott, Brett Hundley, Luis Perez then came over. Luis Perez was there, excuse me. They had three other quarterbacks by the end were pretty solid picks. I thought they would be better. I thought they would be last. I thought they would be bad. Excuse me, just because of their division, which was kind of ended up being true. I mean, they have six of their eight losses were to they had to play the Battlehawks, Dragons, and Defenders six times. So I mean that screws up your record. Look at the South; they went 2-2. They probably beat Orlando and those teams. So I mean, if they're in the South, they might be 4 or 5 wins. They could be in the playoffs in the South. Honestly, I said this XFL North was a crazy division, but I think the big thing I was wrong. Adrian McCarron was a little better than I expected. I thought he'd be good. I didn't quite know how good. Anthony Becht ended up doing a better job. They put a good staff around him. Ben DiNucci was a little bit less consistent than I thought. The Eric King, I forget if he knew he was on. I knew he was on the team when we were doing previews. I didn't know how much he would play. They used him more than I thought, but Tom ended up having the kind of year I thought he would. They had a good running game, which I thought would happen. I thought what's his name? Reggie Barlow. I thought he'd have a good year. Seattle ended up being a high flying offense, putting up a ton of points. Ben DiNucci ended up. We'll talk about player stats, but he ended up playing pretty well. Vegas, as their quarterback room, be a little bit better, but I said that they'd probably struggle in this division. But XFL South, I had way too much faith in Kyle Sloter. I thought he was going to be way better for them. Once I heard he was on the squad, I thought that was going to be that was going to lock it up for them. But I did have those. I had the top two teams correct. I did have San Antonio as a worse team than Vegas, which isn't true record wise, but I would say it's probably true if you played. They played and Vegas won, so they're probably the better team. So I was right on those. Yeah, I had Arlington and Houston flipped. I have Arlington. I could still be right. I said Arlington. I was listening back today. I said Arlington would win their playoff game, which still could happen. I'm not in love with Houston. I didn't have enough faith in Brandon Silvers. I thought Bob Stoops would have a better offense. I thought Kyle Sloter would be better. Brandon Silvers played better than I thought he would. I'm gonna look at the stats, but he ended up being better. I thought he was gonna be bad, but he was okay. I was right about San Antonio and Orlando. I thought San Antonio would compete, but just didn't have the guys, didn't have the quarterback, didn't have the coaching experience. Guardian, same thing. Didn't have the quarterback talent than the players. So it's pretty close to being right. That's how we finish. And then next weekend we'll just do this quick preview just so people know. Arlington at Houston Saturday at 7 p.m. Stay tuned. Might be doing some little features during the game, but we'll see. And then Seattle at DC Sunday at 3. And the winners of those will go to the XFL Championship, which is going to be Saturday. Oh, there is a bye. There's a bye between the championship. Oh, that's big. Not sure why they're doing that. But at the Alamo Dome, Saturday, May 13th at 8 p.m. So that's where we're looking. Just a quick review. We'll do a quick look at my picks. I guess I just feel like getting so forth. So here's my final stats on the regular season. My prediction on who would win the games, I was 30-10, so 75% of the time. This week I went 2-2 in my predictions. Kind of those. I thought Arlington and I thought San Antonio might win. San Antonio might win, which they make that field goal. I'm looking a lot better. Which I thought would push Arlington more, but since San Antonio lost, Arlington didn't push at all. I don't think so. That kind of screwed it up. But my bets were 3-1. Pretty good week. My best bet didn't hit. Arlington again kind of screwed up that. But so my record on bets 29 and 21-19, so just under like 52 over a little over half. So it's pretty good for my first year of really tracking this and looking at it. With a brand new league with new teams who didn't have a ton of information on. Couple of rough weeks in there. I went 1-3. That little stretch of 1-3 and 0-4. You can see I started off pretty hot, 3-1s, 2-2s, and then I go 1-3, 0-4, 2-2, and then finished strong 3-1. My best bets really tanked. I was 5 for my first 6, and then I lost my last 4. But hey, and my best bets are about as good as my regular bets. So I guess that's the lesson. And then let's just look at the individual weeks quickly. Yeah, so St. Louis, I almost didn't have them covering. I'm glad I switched that. I switched it right before. You can see on the video. San Antonio, I had losing. I said they would win. I was wrong, but I did say they would cover. So that was right. Arlington screwed me up. Of course, they've let me down all year. And Seattle, I knew we were going to win and cover because I knew they were going to have to play big. Easy pick there. So pretty good. Not bad for my first year of doing this. Hopefully I'm better next year. More tape on some of these guys as guys return and we learn stuff about the league and the lines and everything. I think maybe that'll get better. I also think their lines got better. The lines used to be goofy the first few weeks, and it was just like, man, if you kind of followed it all, you could get it. But then the lines got a lot tougher as you went on. So credit to Vegas on that, I guess. All right, let's go to the passing stats. So let's go by. So let's see. AJ McCarron actually was probably the better player. Let me rephrase that. He was the better quarterback, if I'm being well, we'll talk about it. Better passer. So let's switch this by TDs. So top quarter. These are the top 3 guys in the league at passing. I said it would probably be the top 3 passers. AJ McCarron was incredible. I get why he doesn't want to be in the NFL, but could. But he missed that game with an injury too. So he had 2,105 passing yards with us. 2,150, passing yards, which I believe also broke the XFL record. I think he did. Ben DiNucci definitely did. He broke Tommy Maddox's record, I think last week even. So, or week 9, I mean. But AJ McCarron, I don't really get these other stats they have. They're kind of dumb, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I mean, you could see AJ McCarron with 4 fumbles, 24 TDs, 6 INTs, 24 TDs, 6 INTs, pretty dang good. Ben DiNucci did lead the league in passing yards. 2,671 passing yards in that system. 64, so about 65% completion percentage, so about 4 points behind, a little over 4 points behind McCarron. 20 TDs, 13 INTs. Those INTs are crazy high. He led the league in picks, and it's not even that close. The next highest is Brandon Silvers with 9, who did not throw the ball nearly as much. So that's another thing too. Ben DiNucci also had the most picks, but he also threw, just looking at this quickly, yeah, even than AJ McCarron, he threw 90 more passes. So I mean, who's bound to have some more picks. Sorry, gonna text from a source. Yeah, sacked 11 times. Got way less sacks than I thought. I feel like he was always under pressure, but he gets rid of the ball. He moves a lot more. So that's the thing. That's the big difference, honestly. Because AJ McCarron has no. I mean, some of it's just he's not as fast, but some of it, AJ McCarron's just like, look, I'll take a sack and go down. And Ben DiNucci's like, no, I'm going to run and throw, which makes him great, but it also kind of hurts those numbers. And 5 fumbles, not terrible. Jordan Ta'amu, pretty good numbers. About what I expected. 14 TDs, only 3 interceptions. That's great. I really like that. The rest, 14 TDs, 3 INTs. Only sacked 6 times for 27 yards. That's crazy. Oh my gosh. So great year for him. Silvers end up having a better year, almost 6% completion, 13 TDs, 9 interceptions. He's better the first 2 weeks. I think they just played a garbage schedule the first weeks. I forget exactly now, but they didn't play that one. But to go start the year, Luis Perez, pretty solid numbers. A little high in the picks, but pretty solid year for him. And then everyone else, Derek King, a little higher than I thought he'd be, but pretty distant down there. Paxton Lynch, Drew Plitt, these other guys aren't really much. Cole McDonald had a pretty good year. That's about it. Let's go to rushing. This is why. So Abram Smith, 77 rushing yard, 77.8 rushing yards, 7 TDs. These are on the ground. Jacques Patrick had a pretty good year as well, but I mean, Abram Smith had a key to get one huge 200-yard game, so that helped him a lot. Great year, 5 yards a carry. No one really is that who had as many attempts as him, anywhere close to him. Any attempts him was anywhere close. He also had the most attempts by a lot, so that makes some sense too. But even so, he had a pretty substantial lead over rushing, even if you look by rushing yards, 7 TDs. Great year for him. Jacques Patrick, Brian Hill, St. Louis had a pretty good rushing year. Not as many TDs, but he did a lot of dirty work. Max Borghi had a good year. Davon Smith, and then at number 6 in the league in rushing. This is the argument. If you're going to make an argument for Ben DiNucci's MVP, you have a few cases, but one of them is 3 TDs, 305, being 7th in the league in rushing yards and having 3 rushing TDs. And Tiamu also pretty high up there in rushing yards, only 7 yards less. A few more attempts too. So Ben DiNucci averaged almost a yard and a half more per carry. So that would be, but yeah, being top 10, he led this team in passing and rushing yards, and he's not really a running quarterback. So props to him. Receiving, we'll do this. I'll give my receptions. Why not? I'm not driving. And it's mostly goes. Jacour Pearson had a great year. He's definitely going to get anybody to a camp. 60 catches and 670 yards. 11 catches a game. Yards per reception. Sorry, dummy. 6 yards a game. 6 catches a game. Still pretty good, but 11 yards per reception. Pretty good for that high volume of a guy. Hakeem Butler, another big fan favorite on the show. 51 catches, 500, 8 TDs. He led the league in receiving touchdowns. Cody Latimer, had a really good year for the Guardians, especially with that quarterback play, tight end, security blanket. Props to him. Darius Shepard. Sal Cannella, another tight end. Cedric Bird had a good year. Josh Gordon was second. It looks maybe third. He was not that high in the catch list, but he's third. 4 TDs, averaged 14 yards per catch, just like in the NFL. Not 14, but he averaged a ton. Props to him. Let's go defense. Just tackles. Here's the tackle leaders. Don't have much to say about any of this. Not really a defense guy. 4 forced fumbles. INTs, Gene Harris. 5 interceptions. Some pretty decent interception totals for 10 games. Sean Davis only played 6 games, had 3 picks. That's pretty impressive. And then team stats, they have terrible team stats, but I'm not sure what this is sorting by. Alphabetical order. Let's just do yards. I mean, these are just going to be some of the Guardians have more passing yards. That seems impossible, but I guess it's true. Combined, I guess they were always behind. That makes sense. They were behind a lot, so they're throwing the ball a lot more than St. Louis is up by a lot in some of their games. Rushing, DC clearly leads. Seattle's a pretty close third, which is surprising. They had some decent running games, I guess. Seattle pretty close third but I mean DC has 500 more rushing yards than all these than like 100 more rushing attempts than anyone, so that makes sense. Receiving, Seattle has the most receiving yards.
Oh, that makes sense. I guess with those passing yards. Yards per reception come pretty high. Not even the highest, but I mean they throw the ball so much. Scoring, let's see, total offensive TDs. Yeah, Seattle only had the fifth highest TDs. Guardians, how do the Guardians have all these stats? Am I losing my mind? And they call big games, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, Seattle does not have enough conversions. I mean, 20 kill conversions, 15, 8. Seattle has 12 at least. That's crazy. I mean, these teams, that's what they do. They convert on those 2 point conversions. I mean, that why they're good. Um, defense, and let's see. I want to see scoring. These just how many interceptions they have, though. It's not a great zone. All right, one it there. Um, thanks for watching, everyone. It's been a really fun year. My pick for the XLVP. I saw a lot of people. I've just been kind of agree. It's going between McCarron and DiNucci, and whoever made the playoffs going to get the spot. DiNucci made the playoffs, a little bit of runner. I'll give it to him. That's a coin flip. You could give it to McCarron. I think McCarron's a better story, probably. It's like, oh, he stayed for his kids, which is cool. But I would pick DiNucci. He made the playoffs. That matters. You could say, oh, it's tiebreaker. It's stupid. Okay. If wins, scores, if it doesn't matter who wins the games, why do they keep score? And Ben DiNucci made it to the playoffs, gonna have another chance to play. So it's my opinion, but congrats to all. I mean, you can give it to him. Coach of the year, so I'd probably say Reggie Barlow. First year, I think, of professional coaching, going 9-1, pretty big accomplishment. I don't know the rest of the awards, but DiNucci's probably yeah. I'd say DiNucci had 1, AJ McCarron 2. Someone on, I don't even know. The problem with DC is they're so balanced. You can give it to a lot of guys. But yeah, I think it's pretty much a 2-man race, but we'll see. Thanks for watching, guys. Let me know what you think about this video, and go see Dragons.